Welcome everyone to the Wake Up Call channel. This is going to be fun because now we're going to see the tables turn towards the people who believe that they're red-pilled, which is the conservative Republicans who are deemed conspiracy theorists, who think they've taken the red pill but don't realize if you believe anything in the news, if you believe stories in the news as being real, then you are not red-pilled. Because the news is manufactured. It's manufactured to manufacture you. It is not there to inform you. It is there to condition you. And a lot of these MAGA conservatives always like to call the news fake when it's a story involving Donald Trump or something that they care about. If they disagree with the news, they call it fake. The same way Democrats disagree with things and call it fake news. The simple fact is that it's all fake. It's all formulated. And these events are staged events. There's a reason that I was able to tell people years in advance about this fake assassination attempt. Not because I'm a prophet, not because I'm smarter than anybody else, because the news is fake and they condition you into the events that they're going to manufacture and create. This is a perfect example. Now, a lot of people out there are patting Tucker Carlson, Alex Jones on the back for talking about a potential assassination attempt on Trump as well. But here's the difference between people like me and people like them. When you're COINTELPRO, you tell your audience that the news is real. You tell your audience that this is the deep state going after someone who's trying to stop the deep state. But the simple fact is those people are gatekeepers. The news is not real. The news is fake. It's a production. And I'll show you just what a production this event was. So if you haven't heard, I have another channel, Hurting Humanity. Make sure you subscribe to it now, link below, because this channel is likely going to get removed in the next couple of weeks for talking about this event. Because when you expose the news as fake, that's when they censor you, not when you keep people in the left-right paradigm. And again, if you haven't joined my website, uprisinglives.com, that is linked below as well. I highly recommend you sign up for the mailing list over there so you can know where I am uploading at all times, because there's hundreds of thousands of people, I guarantee, are looking for this content right now, but don't know where to find it. So make sure you sign up for that today. Don't waste a second. The links are below. Click now on both and make sure you're subbed. So the story that's come out about the shooter, and there's a bunch of narratives out there. The FBI has identified the man as Thomas Matthew Crooks. This is from the mainstream media. This is what they're telling us, okay? So pay attention to the narratives here. Here's a photograph of the guy, Thomas Crooks, and of course, here are the common themes that we see with manufactured fake news. There's never anyone alive for a trial. There's never anyone there to live to tell a motive. The person's always gone, and conveniently, this guy was able to fire a lot of bullets before he vanished into the air and vanished into the night, before he was whacked. Another thing to note is the weapon that's always used. It's always an AR-15. Why? Because there's a common theme with the left and right. Remember, when themes cross over, it tells you it's a globalist agenda, right? I've talked about this with the magic potion. When that was rolled out, they had to start it with Donald Trump. Why? Because they needed conservatives and Democrats on board. When they saw the pushback from conservatives, Trump started to finally change his tune on Operation Warp Speed. We see the same thing with the dangers of AI and technology. You don't hear conservatives trying to stop it. You certainly don't hear conservatives talking about weather warfare. They talk about a climate cult by design because they want you to think these people are all extreme climate cult people, but they don't talk about how the government has the ability to manipulate the weather, and that's exactly what you're seeing going on right now, right? There's common themes that they will never, ever allow one side to not be on board with versus the other. They are trying to convince conservatives just as much as they've already convinced Democrats about gun bans and red flag laws, right? So is it a coincidence that this guy that we're told is the shooter, Thomas Matthew Crooks, that his father also just happens to be what? A mental health counselor. So his father is a mental health counselor. There's your tie into red flag laws. And here's where you start to see exactly what the government wants to come out of this. He is a registered Republican, and Republicans are not believing the narrative that this is the actual shooter. The thing that they're allowing to trend on Twitter is that the shooter is actually a guy who goes by the name of Maxwell Yerrick, who conveniently happens to be Antifa. So they're saying that the government is covering up an Antifa member, a Democrat, and saying that it's this conservative kid. And of course, conveniently, the government has released the photograph of the deceased shooter, which is something that never occurs. And not only did they release it, they released it immediately because this is a form of gaslighting. So before I give you the big narrative here with BlackRock that everybody needs to pay attention to, let's look at the obvious stuff, right? The shooter is deceased. The shooter, as we've been told, had an AR-15. Common themes, right? The shooter, conservatives don't believe, is the guy that they're telling us because they're questioning that story because it doesn't fit their narrative. They want to believe it's an Antifa liberal who was hired by the deep state to carry this out. But what these people don't realize is that these are Manchurian candidates. I've talked about the events that happen at schools all the time, right? People don't want to believe that those things could actually be faked. I talked about Bill Cooper's book where he talks about Project Orion. Okay, it's a mental patient process where they put them under voluntary hypnosis, but they put them through CIA mind control methods to create Manchurian candidates who carry out these events. Usually these are done at schools to ignite the anti-gun lobby, right? These are the events that happen at schools. Now, this event here, a lot of people are saying, is it fake? Is it not fake? Is it a false flag or a psyop? Most of these people who claim to be red pill don't even know the difference. A psyop is a psychological operation. Can it cross into a false flag? Yes. A psychological operation, in a lot of senses, doesn't even need to occur. The event that occurred up at the Hook at the Sandy was a psyop. There was never even anything that actually occurred in that pop-up town. Events like this where there's an actual crowd on display, you could start looking through and weeding through the evidence, right? We saw an actual body they showed us on TV on top of a roof. Now, the story that they've told us about how this guy was 138 yards away and somehow the Secret Service was not protecting him is going to probably be a narrative that is carried out with the right wing, where they try to say that the Secret Service didn't do their job on purpose so that this could happen to Donald Trump. There'll be all sorts of conspiracies around it, but here's the real conspiracy. Here's the real fact of the matter, okay? This is where you should start going, oh, wow, this does seem like it could be manufactured news because the news is manufactured. We all know of BlackRock, right? Everybody knows of Larry Fink. Larry Fink is famous around conspiracy circles for what? Well, owning everything, right? He owns the news networks, he owns Fox, he owns CNN. So he owns both sides, right? BlackRock owns both sides. They own everything. They own the gas companies, they have stakes in Amazon, they have stakes in every single form of media. And of course, Larry Fink is a close ally of Donald Trump. So you'd say to yourself, well, wait a minute, how does Larry Fink tie into this? Well, let me play for you this commercial that aired in 2023 from BlackRock, where they actually conveniently filmed at this school, the Bethel Park High School, the same school that the shooter supposedly went to. And guess what? Conveniently, the so-called shooter happens to be in this BlackRock commercial. I kid you not. Look.
My name is Brian DeLallo. I teach AP and honors economics in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Financial well-being to me is knowing that I can be free to do the things that I love to do. I hope when I retire someday, they say that guy made this place a special place to come to school and gave as much as he could to help the community.
So as you saw that right there, that character that you see is Thomas Matthew Crooks. This was shot 1 year ago, right? And when I tell you about how they put people through mind control operations, why is it that all of these shooters, so-called shooters, all look the same? Do you ever notice the look on the face of these people? I mean, you tell me you don't see something off when you see Thomas Crooks? How about the name, by the way, with Crooks? Thomas Crooks, all the stuff with Trump being a crook is a common theme that we hear. I mean, they rub this stuff right in front of our faces because they produce and manufacture this. So you see a commercial with the shooter in the commercial for BlackRock. BlackRock conveniently owns and controls everything, right? And what is Larry Fink most famous for in addition to the stuff I showed you? Well, he's most famous for his recent interview where he talks about being able to control people's behavior, because that's what this entire experiment that's going on right now is about. Changing these laws, putting restrictions in place, censoring free speech, behavioral control. And Larry Fink is known for Well, giving speeches like this.
Behaviors are going to have to change, and this is one thing we're asking companies. You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock we are forcing behaviors. What we are doing internally is, if you don't achieve these levels of impact, your compensation could be impacted. Okay, you have to force behaviors, and if you don't force behaviors, whether it's gender or race or just any way you want to say the composition of your team, you're going to be impacted. Behaviors are going to have to change, and this is one thing we're asking companies. You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock we are forcing behaviors.
And that's what this huge experiment is about. It's about behavioral control. That's really what the United States of America is about. It's a giant experiment, the illusion of freedom, believing what you want to believe, but not realizing that it's all manufactured. The history of the world that we've been taught is a lie. And like I said earlier, if you believe anything in the news, then you're falling for the deception. People out there are claiming that they're red pill, claiming they're awake because they get tastes of conspiracy, but they don't understand how this works. It's a psychosis. The entire phenomenon with Trump is a psychosis. People act like they even know who this guy is. Why? Because of the media and the television and what they're getting fed. They think that they're getting all of this information as if it's just coming from some feed that the media doesn't want you to know about. All the stuff that the media does with victimizing Trump makes people like Trump more. That's why the liberal media goes out of their way to bash Trump. You think that they're that tone deaf that they don't know what they're doing? This is a CIA operation. Their extent in understanding the human mind is beyond your comprehension. So they know with all the stuff they do in the news by making Trump a criminal when everyone knows that the stuff that they're showing you is insane and nobody would really go to court for that. They're doing this deliberately so that you put more support into Trump. They want to prevent a real revolution from occurring. So everybody's investing in Donald Trump, right? And to understand this better, okay, we talk about manufactured news. The news creates a perception that you think is reality. So you put the TV on, you watch the news, and you're supposed to believe that this is what's happening in the world. When you go to the movies and you watch a movie, your brain is telling you that this is fiction. But guess what? It's inverted. A lot of the themes and the plots in movies that seem ridiculous, from sci-fi with these alien invasions to movies about demonic possession, those things are actually real in this realm that we're living in. The stuff in the news gives you a false perception of reality. Then you garner all this support for these politicians. They were never able to do this like they're doing it now because people were not so attached to the media. They didn't have a phone in their hand 24/7. They weren't obsessing over this. There wasn't Twitter. There wasn't the hive mind consciousness of the internet where people are uploading their every thought. So Larry Fink and these psychopaths, their goal is behavioral control. And they're manufacturing the news in front of you. Think no further than the film Wag the Dog. Wag the Dog is a perfect example where they show you truth in plain sight. Where they say, well, this is a comedy film about what if Hollywood could manufacture wars and manufacture this. But this is exactly what they do in Wag the Dog. It's a production. And all these events that occur are staged productions. That's what you're seeing, staged productions. People can't wrap their heads around that. They go, that cannot be, because they're emotionally invested in something. They're under psychosis. You don't even know Donald Trump, just like you don't know Joe Biden, but they think that they know them. They think, you know how many people comment and they don't want to believe the stuff with Joe Biden is an act? Yet you could see him doing from one competent speech to another speech where he can't complete a sentence, right? They don't want to believe it because the act is being played on them so well, and they hate the person so much that they refuse to believe that this could possibly be an act because they're emotionally invested in it. Like people who watch pro wrestling and think that it's real, that it's a real fight, right? And they don't want to believe that it's an act. I mean, that's what you're seeing. You're seeing smoke and mirrors played in front of you. And this warps your perception of reality. So let's go back to the guy, right? Thomas Matthew Crooks. Thomas Matthew Crooks looks like every single Manchurian candidate that we've ever seen. They all look the same. Think of the Aurora guy, one of the rare ones that actually survived the event. Think of all the other guys, right? The Hook at Sandy. That guy's mugshot that we saw, a picture of, because he didn't live for a mugshot, but his stage photograph. These people all look the same, right? Do these look like candidates to you for people who could be put under Operation Orion, the CIA's operation to use hypnosis and drugs and all sorts of things that we've heard about that we know are real, which, can relate to things like MK Ultra, which are real government operations done on civilians? You don't think that they have the ability? Of course they do. So when you see an event like this and the government then decides to release what? They release pictures of the guy dead. He is dead. They tell you his weapon was an AR-15. They show you the stage photograph on a rooftop. And then you watch the reaction of what actually occurred, right? Trump's on stage. Did you see anybody behind him running away? Did you see anybody behind him screaming? People were still standing in the backdrop as if nothing had occurred. Could you imagine being around something? What do you think? That they just thought it was fireworks? I mean, the entire thing is suspicious. And now this is a good opportunity for Democrats to actually wake up. And I think that they tied him in as being a conservative to make sure Democrats don't call this fake. Because Democrats, the first second this happened, you saw stuff trending where they were saying, oh, this is fake. The Republicans did this to get more support for Trump, to get him more votes. And then the second that the media released that he was a registered Republican, they stopped with that narrative and just said, oh, okay, now the conservatives are going to try to say that it's not the same person that the government's telling them that it is. They're trying to say it's an Antifa guy. That's to keep the Democrats from actually waking up to manufactured staged events. And it's a great opportunity for them to wake up, just like the stuff in Israel is a great opportunity for them to wake up because they've sided Democrats with Palestine. This gives the Democrats out there an opportunity to understand about the synagogue of Satan and who controls and runs everything. But they don't go further than the surface level. And they don't want to go further because they don't want to actually wake up to the truth. So you get this guy that's manufactured, Thomas Matthew Crooks, right? A year ago, Thomas Matthew Crooks, who just recently graduated, was featured in a commercial at his high school that was produced by BlackRock, right? And of course, what's the motive? Well, you don't know the motive. You don't know about it. You know, kid just graduates, his whole life ahead of him, right? You could take a look at him. I mean, he looks like your prototypical Manchurian candidate. I mean, that's very, very clear, right? And of course, Larry Fink, BlackRock, connected to Bethel High School, right? This took place in Bethel. The shooter's from Bethel High School. Well, what's the connection there? Well, the connection is that BlackRock owns the media. And if BlackRock is trying to manufacture people's behaviors like he said right out of his own mouth, how do you think they're going to manufacture your behavior? They create news stories to give you a different fake perception of what's happening in the world. These types of things mold your behavior. They make you want what? Want gun grabs. These things make you want what? They keep you in the left-right paradigm. If you're a Trump supporter, this makes you support Trump more than you've ever supported him because that's the narrative that's out there now. People are buying shirts with that picture that I talked about in my previous video, right? Look at the comments under my video on Trump where people are just unhinged, you know? That means new people are stumbling upon it and they think that they're red pill because they follow government-created conspiracy theorists, actors like Russell Brand, people who are put in place to herd them, and they think that they're awake and they have any idea about psychological ops. They don't know anything about it because they actually believe in the news. Anybody out there that's telling you that the news is real and then keeping you trapped when stories like this happen to say, oh, you know, I don't know, maybe it was really a Democrat, maybe they're telling us it's the wrong guy. Oh, that's the conspiracy you're going to follow? The conspiracy is that the news is manufactured. This is how they manufacture people's behavior. BlackRock owns the news. They own everything. They own all those railroads that derailed deliberately, that was spraying chemicals all over the place and black clouds. BlackRock owns it all. They don't want you to realize that BlackRock owns it all because the media is owned by BlackRock. So they think they're going to come out and confess. Sometimes Fox News tries to tickle Republicans' ears with it because they know there are a lot of Republicans who are on to Larry Fink, but they're not going to give you any truth on the news ever. And people just think that it has something to do with, well, they're not going to give me truth as far as, you know, Donald Trump and his poll numbers. No, they're not going to give you any truth ever because it warps your perception of reality. The news is not here to inform. It's here to condition. When Larry Fink talks about behavioral control, he's using the news to control and manipulate your behavior. And this right here, this story, does so many different things. This fake assassination. This continues with our civil war, which is being manufactured by the media. When they come out and they tell you after the fact, oh, Biden and all these Democrats, we don't need this in America. We shouldn't be doing this in America. Okay, well, if this is a real story, everybody should step back and say, well, wait, why is this happening? Why are people so unhinged in 2024 that they would try to take down someone like Trump? Oh, because of the media and the gaslighting and how the media portrays, civilians against one another as conservative and Democrat. They're the ones responsible for this psychosis. But nobody wants to think that far. They just go, oh, I'm with Trump. Oh, I'm with this team. It's as simple as that. It's like rooting for the Cowboys or the Giants, right? It's as simple as that for these people. But it's not that simple. It's actually a lot more sophisticated, but it's very easy to see if you follow the rabbit hole. You follow the trail, that they manufacture the news to manufacture you. And that's all that this is. This is another event that they created that they want you to think it's something, oh, he's a Republican, but maybe it's not really the same guy. Maybe the FBI and the Secret Service are lying about who it is. When the simple fact is that nobody would be able to even get near Donald Trump to do that. Okay? 138 yards. You're telling me the Secret Service doesn't go past a football field to cover? There's one building, when they show you the layout of the actual area, there's one building that somebody could actually do this from, and they didn't serve. There's nobody over there. Oh, okay. Well, if you believe that, then you still believe in the Tooth Fairy and the Easter Bunny. Wake up, ladies and gentlemen. The news is manufactured. This is another manufactured, contrived story, and it's proof that it's proven to us through what I've shown you that this is manufactured by the same people who manufacture all of it. BlackRock. A reminder, subscribe to my other channel, Hurting Humanity Now. The content over there is ridiculous, but that's because I have to get it approved by YouTube first. Why? Well, because when a human reviews most of my channels, they don't approve the channel. If the channel's not approved, then the channel doesn't get recommended. This channel right now, as you probably saw my other Trump video, was recommended because when you're in the YouTube Partner Program, the algorithm will recommend and promote your channel. That's why it's key to be in it. Okay? It's important to be in it if you want to reach new people. So that's why I have to continually build out new channels. And of course, everybody out there knows that the majority of channels get nuked anyway. So all we can do is continue to keep up the fight. This channel does not pretend to be censored like the alt-right media pretends to be censored, even though they get put in YouTube trending and they're on national news and the national media like Ben Shapiro, The Daily Wire, Russell Brand, and Hollywood. It's a joke. People like me and you have to continue in this fight. I'll continue in this fight. I hope you'll continue with me. Sub to the other channels. And again, join the website, uprisinglives.com now. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families, as always.